Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and today we're going to be looking at the F7C-M Super Hornet. Now, there's been a lot of discussion lately as to whether or not this ship is overpowered, and whether or not it's fair in Arena Commander right now. Now, strictly, let's just get this out of the way. Is the Hornet overpowered? No, it is not. The Hornet, or the Super Hornet, is appropriate to the amount of money you've spent on this. Now, if you buy this ship standalone when it's available, as it was just recently, or actually technically still is right now, for $165, you're getting a hell of a fighter. But I mean, you are getting a top tier, end of the line fighter. I mean, this kind of performance in terms of weapons, firepower, resiliency is to be expected. You wouldn't want, a mediocre fighter out of the box for what you're spending on it. So in that respect, it's not overpowered. It is appropriate to the amount of money that you've spent backing the game, and this is your reward. Now, the other fighters, on the other hand, arguably, a lot of those are somewhat underpowered right now, especially like if you look at the Hornets, the stock Hornet, the Hornet Tracker, the Hornet Ghost. Those Hornets don't really perform all that well because they really only have, in most cases, the two guns. But you can buy a chin turret for them for extra cash right now, or hopefully soon once they put in, Arena Commander bucks or Arena Commander cash, or however they're doing it, you're going to be able to say buy the chin turret so you can add two guns there, and that'll bring you closer to the performance levels of a Super Hornet. So even though those fighters do feel limited now, there's actually once those options open up, you'll be able, it'll raise the ceiling on those fighters and make them a little bit better, if not a lot better, and bring them more in line with the Super Hornet. Now, the problem with the Super Hornet is that technically right now in Arena Commander, if you're, say, in a lower tier fighter, like let's say if you're in a $65 fighter, a $75 fighter, an $85 fighter, you're not going to be able to compete as well with the Super Hornet. Now, it doesn't mean it's impossible to beat them. No, it just means it's going to be more difficult. The Super Hornet basically gives you a whole lot more to start with, and then your skills and your piloting ability fill in the rest, but the base level of the performance of that fighter is so much higher because of the money that's spent, and the ceiling is so much higher because of the money spent. Whereas with a fighter where you've spent $65 or $90, whatnot, those fighters, the base level of those fighters is a lot lower, and the ceiling isn't as high as some of the higher end fighters. Now, I mean, it can be said that that's not exactly fair when you're playing in Arena Commander right now, but technically we're not really competing, we're testing. So in that respect, fairness really doesn't apply. Now, should there be matches where you can limit, say, sub $100 fighters to only be able to fight each other, and 100 plus fighters to fight each other? Yeah, that's reasonable to expect. It's, to compete against your peers, that is a very reasonable argument. And do I think that should be in there? Yes, I do. I think that should be available to most players, that they should be able to say, you know what, I don't want to take an Aurora up against a Super Hornet, so let's be reasonable. But in the sub $100 range, then you have sort of a mini Super Hornet in the Mustang Delta. So you're still going to be technically dealing with some pretty damn powerful ships, even at those low tiers. Now, a lot of the ships in those low tiers still haven't seen their variants. They still haven't seen all their options and all the things that are going to be available to them. So there actually could be, sort of like those mini Super Hornets in those lower tiers of fighters. I mean, we've seen the Mustang Delta, but have we seen all the Gladius variants? Have we seen all the Avenger variants? No, we have not. We've seen the 300i variants with the Omniskis, and those are certainly powerful, but we haven't seen, the ceiling yet on the other fighters. But to expect there to be, sort of like $100 ceiling and a $200 ceiling, that's not unreasonable. So I would technically agree that those options should be in there, and that's something that should be explored. However, once we get into the PU, those rules completely go out the window. So you could be competing with a $165 fighter, you could be flying a $50 fighter. And in the PU, there will be no rules as to who you're going to fight. And so, realistically, is the PU going to be fair? No, it is not. You're going to have to rely on your piloting skill, which is why, even though if you had the option to get into those tiered fights, you may want to kind of actually still try to compete against the Super Hornets and try to figure out a way to deal with them, because once the PU goes live, you're going to have to deal with them. That's just the way it is. So, do I think that it's entirely fair? No, I do not, but you know what? Life ain't fair. Now, from my perspective, it's easy for me to kind of make a statement like that, because as you can see, I have a Super Hornet. I traded my Hornet Ghost and my Cutlass for it. Why did I do that? Well, because it is a top tier fighter and I wanted a top tier fighter. Does that mean that I will be keeping the Super Hornet? Quite possibly, but you have to remember that the Super Hornet may not always be the king of the hill, because the deep space fighter, what used to be called the Bulldog and is now actually supposedly called the Vanguard, or I think it's officially been said now that they're calling this the Vanguard, is going to come in, and it's probably, chances are, it's probably going to be one step above the Super Hornet. So the Super Hornet, which is technically king of the hill right now, may not always be king of the hill. The Super Hornet may actually, have its little day of reckoning coming up, and by the sound of it, it might be coming up pretty soon. Probably in the next couple of months, we're going to see a concept sale, and then after that, we'll have to wait and see how quickly the Vanguard hits the hangar, and then is flyable. But for right now, the Super Hornet, really is the king of the hill, and though it's not exactly 100% fair and equitable, it's still, it's still modeling after the PU, because you will have to deal with these fighters in the PU, and there's not going to be, there's not going to be these limitations in the PU where you can say, oh, well, I'm going to fly around in the persistent universe, but I'm only going to want to deal with fighters of up to this value. You're not going to be able to do that. So, this is the way the PU is going to be. It's it's not, it's a simulation of a universe. It's not a simulation of a sports tournament. So, you can't say have your beginners over here, your middle of the road players over here, and then your top tier, professional athletes over there. It's going to be everybody mixing with everybody. So that's the, that's the way it's going to be. And it's time to kind of accept that fact and realize that this is Star Citizen. This is not World of Warcraft. You're gonna have to, you're gonna be playing this game. It's gonna be like playing Arena in World of Warcraft. You can't bring a level 60 into a level 90 arena. It's just, you just can't do it. But those level 90s can still come after you. So you got to get yourself into the top tier. You got to get yourself strong ships. Now, does that mean that you should buy stronger ships and that you should be forced to, like with a gun to your head, say, if you want to play Arena Commander, you have to have the best thing possible? No. But it does mean that until you have the option to get your hands on these things, whether through Arena Commander bucks or whatnot, maybe it's best to stick to the Vandal Swarm with the lower tier fighters. Really get your gunnery down, really get your missile handling skills down, get your piloting skills down, get your controls down, get all that stuff worked out, get yourself just absolutely top notch, so that when you can earn cash in Arena Commander to buy ships to play in the simulation, then you will be in a position where, not only will you have this, the personal skill set, but now you'll have the vehicle to amplify that, skill set and make it fair and put yourself in a much better position to compete with these other pilots. So I guess that's just more or less my point of view on the subject. I mean, you can agree, you can disagree, you can leave a comment below. That's up to you. But anyways, I'm just going to let the rest of this little battle with the Super Hornet play out. Well, at least for a little while, because after a while I guess it would just kind of get boring watching someone else play. So anyways, enjoy the rest of the video, and thanks a lot for watching.
Charging. Lock. Missiles dry. Shields full. Scanning. Target destroyed. Forward gateway. Shields charging. Shields full. Target destroyed. Target destroyed.
Elite units eliminated. Warning, there are multiple hostiles inbound.